welcome to this long anticipated presentation that we are about to roll out with. And this is, as the title implies, The Ghost of the Delaware Mine, in which, upon finally finding a copy of a 45 RPM record that was obtained through Discogs Marketplace and through the owner of said 45 RPM record, Yoop Tune Music from Marquette, Michigan, which I know this more than likely will never reach the person that sent me this, but after many years of searching for this, I finally found one copy online. And I am so thrilled, and it does not matter the condition nor how it should happen to play, in which we will play this towards the end of said presentation. But first, I need to go and explain a little bit to go back in time and down memory lane as to when I first acquired this record so many years ago, in which, unfortunately, throughout my journeys, this record was either lost, left behind, or stolen. But I have quite a little bit of prop material to take us down memory lane and my travels throughout my life. This package has yet to be opened, and we will go ahead and unbox it once again near the end of this presentation and before we play the song entitled The Ghost of the Delaware Mine. So within my files, I have this folder, as you can see here, maps, in which I have been collecting maps throughout my life. And of course, this also takes into play the factor as a child, and with my name being Morgan, and being exposed to the pirate Captain Morgan in the past. And of course, you have your treasure maps, and the treasure being marked with an X. I kind of fell in love with that whole scenario of fantasy and imagination of pirates and maps, which led me into many years of collecting my own maps. And as a child, I also drew my own so-called treasure maps, once again because of that pirate theme. So I am going to show a few, quite a few maps that I have collected, as well as other relatable information pertaining to not only my travels, but in locations that I have lived, and of course, currently live. And a lot of this goes back many years, in fact, which I have shown in the past. I might have to go with a little bit more lighting here. I have this very old brochure of where I live today, and it's possibly the only one in existence. I don't know, but this was the brochure to Martin, Michigan, where I currently reside. And once again, this is very old, very brittle, but we have the different stores and other businesses, if you will, from that time period, which goes back to horse and carriage and so much more. As you can see, we have horseshoeing here, hides, pelts, and furs. Okay, so right there, that should give you an idea. We also have what is no longer around, the Martin Hotel. And there's been other places such as the Stagecoach Inn, I think that was the name of it, and so on and so forth. This little village has gone through many changes throughout the years. And I have shown this before, but we'll go ahead and set this aside, and it is very dirty. But let's continue on. So we also had the Martin Diner, and we'll shut this back up and possibly be able to see that this was actually a coach. Yeah, might be kind of difficult to see. And this was okay. The diner, okay, it was a streetcar. Excuse me. The diner is built around a streetcar that traveled the streets of Grand Rapids during the early 1900s. L. Hunt traveled down to town giving tent shows and plays. In 1937, he bought the diner, or brought the diner to Martin, Michigan from Wayland, Michigan, when he decided to settle here. Okay, and then it goes on just a little bit more, but I want to try to hurry this right along. Okay, so my hometown here in Michigan, it's a place south of me, which I grew up in Otsego, Michigan. Plainwell is somewhat conjoined now with Otsego, and this is a brochure of both locations. Okay, so I also have information pertaining to the city of Otsego. Okay, let's just go ahead and go like this. This is a past map of Otsego in which many changes have taken place since this photocopy or Xerox copy had been run off. Okay, and here is furthermore more of the outlay of Otsego, and which Otsego and Plainwell is in Allegan County, of which I still currently reside. And I have actually lived in 4 different counties throughout my lifetime here in Michigan, and we'll go further into that. But once again, collector of maps, and this is an area map, in which some of these maps I have some of my travels, which basically was on foot most generally, and a lot of my travels was for the purpose of camping, in which a lot of family camping in my past, and I'll get into that, took place, as well as fishing. And sometimes the two of those would overlap and go hand in hand. And of course, I've done a lot of backpacking as well, or hiking, if you will. Once again, I have collected a great many topographical maps and as well as fishing maps and so on and so forth. But here's some from here in this county of Allegan, in the Allegan State Game area, and this has gone through many changes over the years as well, due to, well, Department of Natural Resources, otherwise known as DNR. Okay, and we also have ski trails, and likewise I have multiple copies of basically the same thing, but some of them do hold additional or extra information. And of course, once again, we can see here Michigan DNR, Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife. And of course, I have traveled many of these trails throughout my years. And like I said, we have multiple copies here. And this is no longer, we used to have what is known as Swan Creek Foot Trail, as well as Pine Point Campground, which I have camped many a times in the past, but unfortunately that has all been shut down for whatever reasons that were given. All right, so Allegan County, this is kind of old in itself, which has, of course, health and safety information, public safety, criminal justice, medical care, uh, just a lot of stuff here pertaining more to, okay, this here is more to the factor of Allegan, the city of Allegan itself. Recreation, okay, but we also have historic Allegan, such as the Iron Bridge or the old Iron Bridge, which they like to show on some of our local meteorological programming when they're showing our weather and whatnot. This is an icon spot that anymore can be seen lit up in many different colors, but it has been a long-standing bridge for many years. And I could go on further into this. There's a lot more information within this brochure here, in which I have quite a few brochures of such. Okay, so we'll go ahead, and now this is something that I wanted to do for the longest time for content on this channel, is travel what is known as the Heritage Trail, and which there's multiple different locations throughout Allegan County, which has these information signs along this trail with information going back to different types of histories, once again pertaining to the trail throughout Allegan County. And this is actually a map here of the Heritage Trail, and I have never really traveled the actual trail itself, because it does go throughout this county, but I have been to many of the locations without traveling the actual trail. And of course, we have even a better map here, once again, and it's basically a duplicate, but it's formatted differently. And of course, we got, this goes back to 2007 Visitor's Guide, which has a lot of information in it, and again, double copies. And I don't know, I came across this within my folder, and I honestly cannot remember where these directions takes us. But you know, it's got some, well, different types of location markers and so on and so forth. And once again, I at the end it says, at trees look for hanging vines. I might have to travel once again according to these directions. Okay, but we also have a place in Berry County, which is next door to us, and another place to where I have done a lot of camping in the past, known as Yankee Springs, and I've done a lot of fishing. There's quite a few lakes within Lake Yankee Springs recreation area, which is also like Allegan State Forest. There's public hunting grounds. And we also have Bay Point Inn and Restaurant that is located on Gun Lake. And here's just a little bit more of Gun Lake. And so that's Allegan County, one county that I've lived in. And once again, here's yet another brochure that I have acquired with a map. And then we go into Kalamazoo County, which is, I have lived in 4 different counties as stated: Allegan, Kalamazoo, St. Joseph, and Van Buren County. Okay, and this is another location of which I frequented a couple of times in the past. Here's a map of Kalamazoo, and you can see here these are different locations that I guess highlighted for specific purposes. And okay, and then this is some additional information that I acquired in the past pertaining to the fairgrounds and parks. And I guess we could possibly go back to lighting this back up here. And of course, once again, we have, okay, this is Prairie View County Park with soccer fields. All right, and then Sugarloaf Lake, and which a buddy and myself, we used to go fishing out here quite often, and there's, well, some unfortunate memories that's associated with this that unfortunately can be found within my death files or obituaries that I've collected over the years, but that's a whole different story and subject matter. Okay, so, and then this is kind of strange. Okay, years back, a buddy of mine stopped by, decided to leave a note, and, well, he didn't have anything else but a map to write this note on. And this is a very large map, and this is also, I believe, Kalamazoo area. Okay. And again, Kalamazoo. And then even more on Kalamazoo, Western Michigan University. This came through First Choice Bank. A service provided to customers of Consumers Power Company, okay, and with other locations such as Richland, Schoolcraft, Vicksburg, and yeah, it's a rather decent map, but of course, quite aged. And then while I was living in St. Joe County, in Three Rivers, these are travels that I took hiking throughout this county of St. Joseph County, all on foot. Many miles that I traveled, and basically approximately around a year's time, as that's basically how long I lived in Three Rivers, but not in the city, out in the country. Okay, and we also have, here's a fishing map. And this, let's see, where was it? Okay, it says Crystal Falls, Michigan. And what lake was this? Well, anyways, this is from Battle Creek. Okay, Battle Creek, Michigan, where I also would travel for fishing excursions. Yeah. And once again, fishing excursions. And, well, this here, I'm not going to really show because of copyright issues and all that good stuff, but I bought this quite a few years ago while my dad was still around, and we started in having quite a few fishing trips as well as other side excursions, but many maps, topographic maps, fishing information, so on and so forth, in which I've shown this in the past as well. Okay, I have not really frequented many lighthouses, but there's still a few notable lighthouses along the shorelines of Michigan and the lakes surrounding Michigan itself. And of course, a guide to Michigan State Parks. And this actually goes back quite a few years, and again through the DNR. But it has also state parks and the addresses that you were able to get a hold of them. special activities and the areas thereof, different fees and the facilities, and a lot of information there. And actually, I got this through the mail for still unknown reasons of why I received this. But it was and this was a few years back that I received this of Mackinac, and yeah, fun information in this as well as once again lighthouses and Mackinac City. Okay, so many years back in 1990, I actually contributed to the Non-Game Wildlife Fund on the Michigan tax or income tax form. Okay, and basically it was to help out with the peregrine falcon, which what was the main objective for me sending in a contribution. And of course we have back here a map showing what these contributions were applied to or supposedly applied to, and the birds affected. Okay, so outside of Michigan, I've traveled as well, and well, I have some memorabilia from Chicago, Illinois, different locations through brochures and pamphlets pertaining to Chicago, the Shedd Aquarium. That was quite interesting. Of course, man, you guys, yeah, okay, fun stuff there. And more on Shedd's Aquarium, the 2007 Visitor's Guide, okay, and which shows the whole layout. Oops, my bad there. The whole layout of Shedd's Aquarium. And yeah, the Field Museum, that's where I acquired this. There's a lot of information here, but once again, trying to zip through this as fast as possible, all right, without really pausing. Big guide to Chicago, and once again, this goes back to that same time period, 2007. Well, I'm not sure if it was, yeah, 2007. There's my ticket for the Shedd Aquarium for a show that they had there. And of course, that was with a past girlfriend. And yeah, I even still have the receipt right here. And why I've got these saved here, I'm not sure. But anyways, it's the receipt from that little excursion there. And again, more literature on Chicago through the Ware magazine. And then, beyond that, I also have this here, which I cannot unfold, as it is very, very brittle because of its age, which goes back to 1902, and this is a map of the 5 districts of New York City, when it was basically divided up pie style, if you will. But then there was also the factor of the star, which I won't go into that. But you can see this is very old. I actually found this in the walls of a very, very old farmhouse that was being remodeled. And not only did I find this, but many other great things within the walls and the floorboards and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we have the world map. And this rather large map, as we can see here. And it's actually in quite pristine condition. And this was actually through the U.S. Army. Okay. And then I also have Natural Hazards of North America. And there we go. We had to refocus apparently. And we'll go ahead and shut that back off to reduce the glare. And once again, within this, we have a lot of information pertaining to that subject matter as well as more maps for different purposes and reasons. And then we get to Michigan, and we will show that. But I also wanted to show this real quick. Is many years back, I also ordered these two books here, On the Road USA, and this is Pleasures and Treasures to Enjoy Within Easy Reach of the Interstate Exits. Okay, two different books that came compiled together as one order through the Reader's Digest. Fun stuff. I mean, a lot of information here. In both books, just a plethora of information of traveling throughout the United States. But of course, everything changes in time, and so a lot of this information, of course, is highly outdated. Alright, so continuing on, here is a past map of Michigan, which of course, a lot of this information here has greatly changed over the years, but it also has such items as the state fish, the state flag, the state stone, the Petoskey stone, the state bird, which is the red-breasted robin, the state gem, which is the green stone, and yeah, we also have our state blossom, which is the apple blossom, the state tree, which is the white pine, and and in many respects, as as it used to be stated, Michigan was the Upper Peninsula to Florida, thus being Michigan's Lower Peninsula. But this is actually Michigan's Upper Peninsula, in which back when I was a young teenager, and one of these family excursions was with my aunt and uncle and two cousins, in which male and female, both aunt and uncle, and then my cousins being male and female, and younger than myself, in which my cousin and I, we spent many years together as we spent a lot of time with our grandparents and traveled extensively for camping and or fishing purposes. And this even went as far as into Canada with said parents or grandparents. Okay, so let's go ahead and so we are going to come on. All right. Sigel Plainwell. Okay, that is where we would begin, and of course we can see Martin being just north of both those locations, so I'm not all that far away from my hometown about Sigel, and we can see the Alleghenies to the west, and then, yeah, everything else. So anyways, on this camping trip that was to take us to the most northern point of Michigan, what is actually known as the most northern point of Michigan, up here to Copper Harbor, which is circled. Now then, you can also state that Isle Royale, which is 48 miles from this upper point here, is actually the most northern point of Michigan, and it's actually Isle Royale, okay, and which there is the boundary between Michigan and Canada. So it took quite a few days of traveling because we went via truck and camping trailer, and to which my cousins and myself traveled within the bed of the truck, as my aunt and uncle was up front in the seats. And along the way, we also met up with a family from Royal Oak, Michigan, which is around the Detroit area. Um, yeah, okay. I'm not even going to look for that right now. But anyways, quite a awesome family, and in which I did even have um, some correspondence with that family after we had returned from the trip. And what was really interesting about this family is, well, they were like the Brady Bunch family. It was a dad and his kids that had married a mother and her kids, and once again creating that so-called Brady Bunch family. So, anyways, as we traveled, we made stops at various different lakes along the way, and which I also had some wonderful experiences along the way, and such lakes as Beaver Lake, and well, I won't go into all the other ones, but it was really fun because even though early teenager, I had taken a rubber raft, and we also had a tent. I took a tent as well. But my cousin and I actually did our own little excursions while we were at these campgrounds, and to where we actually traveled across this lake to an island. And I'm not exactly sure exactly which lake that was, but and we used my rubber raft. No life jackets. I don't remember. I don't believe we had any life jackets. And we went ahead and traveled to this island, and we explored the island for a little while until we came across a rather large pile of bear scat, black bear scat, and decided, okay, this looks too fresh. Let's get the heck out of here. But as we traveled along this highway here, all the way up and to this northern point, once again, to Copper Harbor. Okay, now one of those children from that Brady Bunch family had a very tough time saying Copper Harbor, and basically a running joke was made out of the pronunciation from this child of Caba Haba. And that's something else that, just a little tidbit of fun memory with that. But while up here at Copper Harbor, we went to this copper mine, and which was a very great experience. And I'll go back into that as we continue. But we also there used to be another fun stop along the way known as Christmas. And Christmas, yes, back then it wasn't all that much, but it had its novelty shops and a lot of products that revolved around that holiday of Christmas. And it was here that I actually acquired that original 45 album with the song The Ghost of the Delaware Mine. Okay, but I am going to also show a couple of items real quick before we get to that record of what I still have pertaining to memorabilia, and now a little bit of prop items from that time period. And while being there in Copper Harbor, as we traveled into a copper mine, and outside of the copper mine, there was piles of ore from the mining that you could sift through. and find your own copper. And there was also a cleaning station in which copper had to be cleaned via a type of acid in order to bring about that pretty copper color and to rid the green color of copper tarnish. And this was either hydrochloric acid or sulfuric acid. I can't really remember what. But we got to do it ourselves. I mean, actually dipping this ore into the acid in order to clean it up. It was a very fun and enjoyable experience. And I will go ahead and show a couple of the items. And not only that, because this was a mining town long in the past, there were still standing structures of houses that were actually empty, abandoned, and dated back many years once again to those mining operations. So let's go ahead and show a little bit of that memorabilia that I still have from that trip that goes back a couple of hundred of years. And once again, this is the map that we were just looking at from 1980, 1981 of Michigan, the Great Lakes State, or otherwise once known as the Winter Wonderland. Okay, so here's a couple of pieces of copper ore, and I've got the lighting turned on, so it's kind of discoloring my hand a little bit, but you might be able to see the green coloration. Maybe I should shut that off. The green coloration of corrosion through the copper veins, okay? And once again, I'm not too sure how this is actually going to show up. These are some rather small pieces here, but I have a little bit more to show. Okay, once again, this is some copper ore right here, and we're going to go back to the lighting. And on top, right here, there's a little piece that is corroded, and it does continue on into this rock. But this is copper right here, and at one point in time, this little piece right here, which sticks out above the rock, was cleaned up, much akin to what we have here. And this is another piece that I saved, and this was the after effects of the cleaning within the acid to bring about that copper appearance that we are accustomed to seeing. And let's go ahead and just drop that down. Yeah. And you can see that it also has quartz. Nice sparklies here. And yes, I had this attached. At one point, this is glue here, but I had this attached to a display board at one given point in time. Alright, so here, again, is a nice little sample, and as it reads, solid copper ore, Copper Harbor, Michigan. Okay, and let's go ahead and hit that lighting once again so we can get a better look at this. You can still see a little bit of corrosion there, but this was dipped in that cleaning solution of acid, and it still holds quite a little bit of luster, if you will. And once again, this is not solid copper, but solid copper ore, okay? As it still has the rocky material from the copper vein. Now once again, as I stated, my cousin and I traveled through these abandoned mining houses that, went back 200 years, give or take, and I actually had a few of these, but these are the old-fashioned square nails that they would use, and once again this has glue to it because it was part of a display that I once had. But this is the old spike nails that they would use in the construction of the homes back then. And this very, very old, once again, like I said, approximately right around 200 years, give or take. Alrighty, so now comes the big moment of unboxing this 45 RPM record, The Ghost of the Delaware Mine, which is the mine that we traveled into, and there was a legend pertaining to a ghost. And in all actuality, once they shut off all the lights within the mine, and we were rather deep within, there was nothing but complete darkness. You could not see anything except for the ghost, which was basically a phosphorescent glow within the mine that took on sort of somewhat the appearance of a ghost. And it would take light in order to bring about this after dark glow. So we'll go ahead and open this up. I am so excited, and I don't know if there's anything additional that's been added into this. Oh yeah, and I do, oh wow, that was kind of tough. Oh, I am so excited over this. Oh, and it looks just like when I bought it with what do you call it? A generic sleeve. And there we have the Ghost of the Delaware Mine. Now, okay, once again, just like the map, this is, well, it has a copyright of 1981. And it says producer J.W. Gorst and Carl, which Carl was the singer, I believe. And I can't remember what his last name was. Yeah, we got a little bit of scratching on the surface here. Carl and Company. There we go. Now, I did look this up. Okay? And there is no copyright on this, as it is a folk song. Okay? And I can even, well, I will include a screenshot proving that there is no copyright to this, as I did my little bit of research, because of course we gotta play by the rules, right? Now on the obverse side we have a song, Memories. I do not know, and this is of course side B, I don't know if that is in fact copywritten or not, but we are going to go ahead and play this now. And once again, I'll be using, and I'm sorry for the piles of boxes, but I've been in the process of packing to move for a couple of years now. And so I've been kind of condensing and reorganizing what I have into these boxes in preparation for the move. But we'll go ahead and do our best to play this. Now, if I remember right, this might actually carry a familiar tune to it. I'm not sure. So, my first time listening to this in many, many, many years. And once again, this was the only copy that I could find throughout all these years and what was available online. Now, how well this is going to play, once again, I'm not sure. Alright, we are going to attempt to play this. We'll keep our fingers crossed that it will turn out. And this is edited in, as I had to do away with a previous recording So let's give it a try.
Long before the time of Mandan, long before the Chippewa tribe, long before the first gray dawning, lived the coast of the Delaware mine. Down at the junction of 1 and 2 Shack, deep in the stoat where the sun don't shine, with only a heartbeat to break the silence, came the ghost of the Delaware mine.
Now mind you, if I should happen to get a copyright, I will delete this video.
The red man called it Misquabic, though the name was changed with the passage of time. The white man came and called it Copper, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. The white man had a use for copper, for money and pots and buckles that shine. So he laid a claim to the red man's land, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. Teams came with their handheld drill bits, hear the sound of the hammers falling in time. Play the charges to blast the vein out, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. The carbide lantern was all they had to split the darkness, their steps to guide. Air was piped in and the work went on, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. And he said there was danger around every turn, of the rats leave the shaft, better fall in line. Always know when a cave-in's coming, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. Progress came and they brought in air drills until the load played out in time. There's no one left now but me and you, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. And he said this place is long forgotten, but not by those who work inside. For in their minds I will live forever, said the ghost of the Delaware mine. Long before the time of Mandan, long before the Chippewa tribe, long before the first gray dawning, lived the ghost of the Delaware mine.
And there we have The Ghost of the Delaware Mine by Carl and Company. And if you have any type of albums in mind, regardless of musical genre, you might want to go ahead and check out Discogs Marketplace. I would provide a link, but I don't know whether an external link would work through the description or not. But if you are a vinyl collector and you have something in mind that you have not been able to locate, you might want to check this site out. I am very well pleased with what I received. And actually quite pleased with the turnout of this recording as far as how my turntable cooperated. And as an afterthought, in hindsight being 2020, as far as the actual mine that I described, that I went and visited with my aunt and uncle and cousins, whether that was actually called the Delaware Mine or not, I cannot remember, so please don't quote me on that. But once again, this is an album that I had originally acquired back in my youth, and I was very lucky to have found this copy here. So that is that, and that wraps up this presentation. If you've enjoyed, let me know in the comments below. But once again, if there's any type of copyright issues, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this altogether. And not really chalk it up to a waste of time, but we'll just see how this shall evolve once I do post this. So thank you for watching. Take care and have a great one.